When I look back, I think, I had to research how to research investing.
That's interesting.
Because I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I thought, click, 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 I'll go onto Google, how to invest. And then I realized, investing isn't just investing. There's day trading and investing in your 401k and making different types of life plans and financial plans. So investing was this giant catch-all term, which I don't think I really understood before I started.
I didn't either, honestly.
So then I stepped back and I was like, all right, there's no way I'm going to figure this all out just by looking on the internet.
Welcome to Women Take Stock. Today, we're going to talk about learning curves because, some of us are on sort of one end of that curve and, Dana's at a much farther end of the curve. And so Tula, JJ, and I, Jen, are going to pick her brain and learn a little bit about some of the wisdom she's acquired over the past year that she's been doing this with quite a fair amount of success. So I think we should all sit back and listen to what she has to say.
Ooh, that's my ego boost of the day. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, just wait till we start grilling you and then we're going to tear you to shreds.
Why don't you know the answer to this? Why don't you know the answer to this?
Before we really get into interrogating Dana, let's start the show.
We are four friends all at different places in our financial and personal lives looking to pull back the curtain on the seemingly mysterious, often testosterone-driven world of stock investing.
And if four women without business degrees can figure out the market as a side hustle, so can you.
Join us as we learn the basics, buy, sell, scratch our heads, hold our breath, commiserate, and celebrate, hopefully more of the latter. We aren't experts, so please note that this podcast is for general information purposes only.
Yeah, anything resembling financial advice is purely coincidental.
That said, we are hoping to make a little or a lot of money doing this. And if money is power, we want some of that too.
So everybody, welcome to the show. But before we dig into interrogating Dana about all the things that she's learned about how to create a good portfolio, I haven't seen you guys in a while. We've it's not really been a break, but we haven't, we skipped a week or two. I can't remember. Anyway, how are you?
I don't know. I'm I'm in the middle of a huge work project. And so I am in a bubble, but I do check my portfolio every day mostly. And I actually check my crypto multiple times a day because I feel like it's exciting to see it going up and up and up. But what happened this week for me with the stock that I bought a couple of weeks ago, Delta, in my efforts to anticipate what people are going to be doing after the pandemic. Of course, a week after I bought my Delta stock, boycott Delta started trending on Twitter because they had apparently issued a statement that was sort of in support of the Georgia very restrictive voter law. And then they reversed themselves. And a couple of days later, they said, no, we do not support that law. So I was good. But I was actually at that point where I was like, should I sell my Delta stock and buy American? And I didn't. And it just goes to show you this intersection of politics and business, and with social media, how quickly things can shift.
Reactivity, absolutely.
The reactivity. So sometimes...
Did you see that though? Did you see that? Did the stock
It came back a little bit. I mean, it came back, I'm back up again. It didn't go down. It went down a little bit, not a huge amount. And then it went back up a little bit. But it made me realize maybe these big companies are more impervious to political policy than I thought. I don't know. It's something I'd like to look more into in the future.
How much did it go down, Tula?
Well, I have to look at.
Was it by cents or by dollars? Where is it right now?
So right now it's at 48.80. That was from Thursday because there was no trading on Good Friday. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a huge, I didn't have a lot of money tied up in it. So for me, it wasn't but if you did have a lot of money tied up, a couple dollars makes a big difference.
But it's not just about the money too. It is about your ethical stance, your moral stance. I mean, I struggle with this a lot.
Yeah.
Certainly there's the whole question that we've talked about a little bit about energy consumption in crypto. And as somebody who cares a lot about sustainability, it's not clear for me exactly how to go. I do need to learn more about that. But I think about that too. I texted you guys earlier this week that I'm trying to sniff around to find some more another company that does some good sustainability stuff. I'm not sure entirely what that is, but I'm sort of sniffing around because I'd like to find something to add to my portfolio that also feels good, right?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how do you get to that? I was going to say magical spot, but maybe it's not magical. Maybe it's predictable and research based. It's about finding that place where you are investing according to your ethics and making money, because I don't want to sacrifice one to the other.
Totally. I think often there's this idea, especially among women investors or about women investors, that because we're more moral creatures than men, that it's our responsibility to only invest in certain types of companies, and that there's more opprobrium for women who don't do that, who might
Nice word,
say,
JJ.
Thank you.
Opprobrium. Look it up.
Smarty pants.
If they're if they're investing in things that are, I don't know, a company that's heavily in China, not doing the right thing there, or anything like that. There is an attitude. Of course, we want to support the right kinds of companies, and also the right kinds of companies that are also good companies, right? But I once read an expert saying, if you want to do good with your money, get a lot of returns and then give directly to a cause or a charity. I mean, or, you're more effective. Like, how effective is it to not invest in a company? I don't know. Maybe
No. It makes sense. Like my three shares of some huge company isn't going to make a lick of a difference. But if I make $100 on that and I give it to a food bank, that makes a difference, right?
Right.
But it's your investment supporting that company, right?
I think there's different ways to go about it. I think there's ways, like JJ just said, you can, make a commitment to donate and your money to charities you believe in. But I think there's also an avenue for investing in companies that, maybe they don't do animal testing. It depends on what you care about. And those companies actually are becoming more profitable because more people are starting to care about those things.
Yes. But Tula, JJ jumping in here, where do you draw the line? So, okay, lots of tech stocks, as we know, have been doing well over the last, year? Well, some of those don't have such great hiring practices when it comes to women or minorities. Some of those companies actually may be doing business in China that some find objectionable or that is up for debate. Some of them don't necessarily have the best practices when it comes to dealing with, pornography and the promotion of pornography. I think one of the issues is there's always something that a company is probably doing wrong.
All right, Dana jumping in here. I'm going to take the philosophical route and just, why not eschew all of the trading and all of the investing and all of the time you spend worrying about stocks and making money, and put that time and energy and effort into volunteering?
You can do that, or you can do all of the above. It's not an all or nothing approach. I think that also the beauty of being your own active investor is that you can sort of pick and choose the companies that you believe in and care about. And I'm with you, JJ, like there are, big tech companies that don't have great practices, but I think the more that they're exposed and the more they're forced to kind of address those, hopefully things are like the long arc of justice is hopefully trending towards
the long arc of history bends towards justice.
Well, so that reminds me of something that kind of leads us into the overarching theme of this episode. This week, Deliveroo, which is, like an Uber Eats, they debuted on the London Stock Exchange, their IPO, and it went, it debuted at X amount, I can't remember exactly, but then basically tanked. And basically it removed $5 billion off the value of the company.
Wow.
Really. And a lot of people were saying, retail investors were let in, and that's one of the reasons. But actually, there were lots of factors as to why that happened. But this idea, a lot of institutional investors or hedge funds did not want to get involved. And one of the reasons was Deliveroo's hiring practices. And those are starting to bite across companies like Uber or whatnot, that their very structure of the business with their employees. We're seeing the same kind of news come up about Amazon with the unionization efforts, right? So I do think that sometimes the market really does reflect that sea change, and money talks.
Yeah.
So when it starts to hit their bottom line, they do change. So I feel like I'm basically just reversing what I said earlier. But that's my
you know
prerogative.
what I'm thinking? We need to do an entire episode devoted to this topic because there's a lot there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's some people who really do study ethical investing and impact investing. And I think we could learn a lot.
Yes.
For me at this point, though, as a small time individual investor, to some degree, it's also just about we've talked about this. What am I interested in, right? I'm not interested in reading annual reports of big oil. I'm not. But if I could find a cool company that's got some new solar technology or a new electric vehicle that sounds kind of cool, or I'm trying to learn about what is hydrogen fuel, I'm more interested and I'm more likely to follow.
That's so interesting. So are you saying that you'd be more inclined to invest in a company if the research results and what you learned about it, you had easier access to, and it was more interesting?
Yeah,
I think that makes sense, though.
There are a lot of ways to make money, right? There's a lot of companies out there you can invest in, which is why it's taken me a little bit of time to try to find the next place I want to park $100, right? Which I'm not talking a lot of money here. It's just that if I'm going to spend time reading about a company, I'd rather it be something that at least is interesting to me.
So tell us about your portfolio this week, Jen.
I can't.
Because you don't have one?
Because I barely looked at it. I really didn't. I mean,
JJ.
I thought you were going to say it's top secret.
It's so much more intriguing.
All right, JJ, what have you been up to this week, portfolio wise?
Well, mine's been doing okay. I'm enjoying what I check in every morning is just my portfolio and where things are with crypto. And right now, I too am like super busy at work. So I'm not doing much active managing of my portfolio, but keeping up with the news and whatnot. I would say, my Pinterest is kind of bumping along,
good,
slightly above what I got it for,
good.
But I still feel like that's long term. I'm excited about it. I've got several marijuana stocks, and the good news is this week, I know they've not been good lately.
They haven't gone high.
What?
They haven't been high.
Yeah, lots of people are not high on these. But actually, this week it was announced that New Mexico is passing a law for legalization that's going to be in place by, I think, April next year.
Ooh,
so
that's
quickly.
Good information.
Yeah, so that's some of my research. That
your research for your next vacation spot.
Actually, we do. My family does vacation in New Mexico.
Yeah. You can celebrate. Maybe you can be there on the day that it goes into effect.
Yeah. So I would say, my portfolio, I'm pretty happy with it, and it's doing a lot of that little up, little down. I think it was this way last time we talked.
Yeah.
It's little up, and the next day it'll be a little bit down, little up, but overall the trend is slowly eking up. And the ones that aren't doing so well, I've got a long-term view of them, so I'm comfortable with it. And the crypto has done well.
I will say it's so interesting. It's like the thing that at the beginning of all of this was like, are you kidding me? More than 50% of my portfolio is now in crypto. And because of that, even on days when my traditional stocks go down, my portfolio has been fairly consistently okay. And, at some point or another, it may totally blow up in my face, but it is interesting. And actually, of my sort of more traditional stock holdings, there are a couple that are with companies that invest in crypto or work on mining or stuff like this. And those ones too have, over the past few months, since I've had them, gone up. And so those are the things that are keeping my portfolio healthy right now, these kind of very risky, volatile stocks. But right now, they look good.
And speaking of crypto and the woman who got us into it,
yes.
Dana, what is your portfolio looking like?
I'm with you there, Jen. Despite the volatility, it seems like my portfolio is boosted by crypto endlessly. And it's now worth riding those downward days, because you kind of know it's going to go back up at some point. Mm-hmm. But strangely enough, I have a couple of holdings in traditional stocks. I haven't done anything since like November when I purchased. I have some Twitter, I have some Zynga, and nothing's really going on with them at all. And I'm kind of like, why do I have those? They're not going anywhere. So those are super long holds for me. And it makes me think a little bit more about, you kind of have to be one of the extremes. You either have to have a long hold or you have to be kind of a day trader, in terms of like making money in a significant amount of money in any period of time.
Right.
Versus like, holding something for 6 months isn't really going to do much.
Yeah, unless you are wrapping your investments around a particular event, or like if you think in 6 months X is going to happen, and then you're going to sell,
or a specific earnings call, or a specific, like one of my stocks we're holding because the company is being bought by another company.
Yeah, those kinds of things. But that's based on specific research that you are doing.
Research. I think we can blame Dana. We were like, you got us into this thing. It's all because of you. But it's actually it's actually props. No, but you did. It is because of you that we took this journey, and we've learned a lot from you at a very nascent stage. And then we kind of all went off on our own little journeys and have done our own little things. And I'd love to circle back and get a little bit nuts and bolty about, what do you do? I mean, you're deeper into this than the three of us. You've got more at stake in the portfolio than the three of us. So what do you do? Take us through, like, what does your day look like?
Well, my day now is really different than my day like a year ago. So I'm going to go back to my day a year ago, because when I harken back to like where I started, I can't really believe how much time I spent with my head around all of this stuff. I mean, granted, it was start of COVID. I had a lot of extra time on my hands. And I also had that motivation. I think that we talked about how I started investing in like February of last year. I'd been thinking about it in January. So it wasn't all COVID motivated, but I knew I was going to make a shift somewhere. And I'd kind of made that commitment to, all right, I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to do everything that I can to teach myself. And I think that's kind of the first step, like you can put it on your to-do list, like learn more about investing. But until you make that commitment, it's almost like quitting smoking or going on a diet or getting your exercise regimen together. Yeah, you really have to be committed to it.
An active step.
Wait, can I just interrupt for 1 second, because I just had an idea that will make us all phenomenally wealthy. What if we created like a Bridgerton-like drama, except that within the context of the show, they were learning how to invest in stocks?
The only thing I know about Bridgerton is that really hot guy that everybody wants to.
Who's not coming back.
He could teach us, and I will pay attention. Anyway, go back to what you were saying.
I want to actually delve further into that, Jen. but I'll
back to what you were saying.
Stock investing costume drama. Is that it? Stock investing costume drama?
Exactly.
Turning stock investing into your sexual fantasy.
It's like, it's going higher and higher and higher. Sell.
Basically, right?
Okay.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Dana, you were saying.
What percentage is it up?
Oh my God. And then that cigarette smoke at the end.
I started this. I'm sorry. Back to the beginning, Dana. So you were learning, doing research.
Committing to taking that next step. So I had to take this sort of fully immersive attitude. And I think that harkens to like learning a language. You have to be in there. And I think when I was doing it, I wasn't thinking exactly in this format, but when I look back, I think, I had to research how to research investing.
That's interesting.
Because I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I thought, click, 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 I'll go onto Google, how to invest. And then I realized like, investing isn't just investing. There's like day trading and investing in your 401k and making different types of life plans and financial plans. So investing was this like giant catch-all term, which I don't think I really understood before I started.
I didn't either. Honestly, I didn't either.
So then I sort of stepped back and I was like, all right, there's no way I'm going to figure this all out just by looking on the internet, because, you type one thing and you've got a million ads that are going to lead you one way. You have all these articles that are going to lead you another way. You start reading an article and there's a million click-throughs. And I think because I'm the ripe old age of 50 and, using the Farmer's Almanac and the World Almanac and Encyclopedia Britannica and the phone book. Yeah. Growing up, I thought, I'm going to get back to basics and I'm actually going to just buy every book that I can on Amazon because again, it was COVID at this time and I couldn't go to my favorite bookstores.
Right.
So I ordered 20 physical books and
Wow.
decided I would be much less distracted if I just started physically reading. You know, the most distracting thing is turning a page or having to look up a word, but I wouldn't have to click through a million different things to understand the sentence that I'm reading online.
Or somebody always trying to sell you something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so part of your day to day now that I didn't even think of that as such a distraction. That's really
But it is because, right, like when if you Google around, you go like, what does the Motley Fool say? And the minute you get to the end of the article, they're like, want to know more, give us money. And right. Whereas if you're reading a book, obviously that's not going to happen. So you have a stack of books. Yes. You have a stack of books that you're now showing us on Zoom.
And that we're going to be sharing on the website.
Yes.
So,
and hopefully put some links into the description of this podcast. But rather than giving us a laundry list of all of them, can you just talk about one or two that you thought were particularly helpful to you?
I can. I think overarchingly, though, I want to point out that for me, readability was really important. And the way the book was laid out and the chapters of the book, the typeface of the book and the length of the book are also really important to me. I really wanted like 101s, beginner basics. So I do have a section by a company called Adams, crash course books, crash courses in stock market, day trading, investing. And they're actually called Investing 101, Day Trading 101, and Stock Market 101. And they're kind of small, beautiful, easy to read manuals. And I found them really helpful. And then I had some dummies books, and I'm talking those dummies books with the yellow covers.
Can I point out, Dana, going back to the 101s, that this one is written by a woman.
Which one?
We appreciate. The Stock Market 101 by Michelle Kagan. We just appreciate having CPA, a woman perspective.
Yeah. And actually, I'm looking at most of my other books here, and most of them are written by men. So there you go.
Interesting.
So that's a lot of paper, which is great. I mean, I agree. I never absorb anything when I read it, anything long that I read online. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have a beautiful physical book. And it is funny that you're saying that, because I think it does matter, right? The quality of the paper and the font and all that, it actually makes you pay better attention.
Yeah.
And you can use them as references. Certainly, yes, you can always go back to a link on your bookmarks, but I've actually had this stack of books sitting next to me for over a year. They are my friends.
They're like your buddies.
Thank God you guys are my friends, and those books are not my buddies, but it's great to just know they're there.
I'd love to know, like, what's the thing that you found to be the least helpful that you thought might have been helpful maybe once upon a time?
I thought I was going to have to pay for an online course. And that ended up being the absolute least helpful direction. And I also found Facebook to be completely lacking in any kind of helpful support or guidance, despite the Facebook groups that they have.
Except, of course, the Women Take Stock.
Except for the Women Take Stock group. I won't name any names, but certain investing tools also have their Facebook groups, and it's too many people and too many opinions, and you can get lost in all of that.
Okay. I have a question. Whenever I Google a certain topic, there's always sort of like those usual suspects that come up first. And I'm wondering if there's some that you find particularly reliable and helpful versus some that aren't. I'm thinking of things like Motley Fool and Investopia and Yahoo Finance, and sort of the ones that I guess have enough internet traffic to pop up first.
Yeah, I think I find personally Motley Fool, Yahoo Finance, Market Watch, Investopedia, those are kind of my go-tos. And news websites as well, like New York Times, NPR. And I have to say, I really do like Robinhood's weekly newsletter.
I do too. The snacks. I like that they make it fun.
It's hilarious. It's so witty and well written. And I just think, God, who does that every night?
I know. And you learn something. I mean, I didn't even realize I was interested in some of the things that they talk about or they turn you on to.
I think it's really well done. And I love their links that send me into the different directions that I want to go, as opposed to sending me to another ad.
Are there any sites that you found that aren't the usual suspects? I mean, that we might not have heard of?
some of the more informational sites like Smart Asset, NerdWallet, and The Balance, they cover like everything to do with money. They're more reference, and I just like the way they present information.
And what do you do? How do you find a new stock? You decide you want to invest in something new. How would you do that?
I would go on some of the websites that I've mentioned and some others that I have not. And I would go on the actual website of the company, and I would kind of pose questions in Google as well. Ask, what should I know about XYZ company, or is XYZ company a good stock? And social media, I spend a lot of time on Reddit and YouTube and Twitter, and just listen to all the chatter out there and just gather, maybe not make any moves based on what one person says, but make moves based on all the information I've gathered and like sifted through my own personal filters.
I have to say, I think that's so important to actually look at what a company is trying to tell you on their site, even though we know a lot of that language is all PR speak.
Right. Yeah.
It's all wrapped up into something. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not exactly accurate.
No, really?
Really? Yeah. You need to listen to what a company's telling you. This is my opinion. But then you also need to seek out a contrary view. I love to look at analyst ratings on, CNN and Yahoo Finance, and I always like to see, who's added it as a buy or who's now moved it to a hold, et cetera. But then having those alternative views where it's not just everyone piling in and saying, this company's great or this company's rubbish.
Well, it's almost like a Yelp review, right? Like when you want to you move to a new town, you want to get a haircut, for example, and you find a hairdresser salon and I automatically will go to the 1-star review to see what is the worst thing that's happened at this place.
Yes.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but the Facebook groups you found sort of useless, but Reddit is helpful. So what's the difference that you're seeing in these communities?
I'm not an expert. And I do spend probably less time on Facebook than I do on other social media platforms. But what I've gathered is that Reddit is much more focused versus Facebook. And I could be wrong there, but in my own personal experience, in terms of the results that I've gotten when I've started poking around, it's just too general. Some of the groups on Facebook are just much too general, and there are way too many people in there. And there's a lot of spam that happens in those groups that is just noise and very distracting.
Yeah. And the search function is not as good on Facebook as it is on Reddit. Like on Reddit, I feel like you can really find something super specific very quickly.
I have a question, because one of the things that you've mentioned in the past, Dana, is stock charting apps. Like, what's the deal with that? I feel like that's next level.
It is next level, right? I think it's more like stock charting software. I mean, I know that you can do this on apps, but I think your phone is really limited in what it can reveal to you in terms of all of the graphical detail that's available. There's one.
Is this our goal by the end of next year? We're all going to have a Bloomberg terminal.
I think I want.
Yeah, but so whether it's on a phone or a monitor, how do you use them? What are they?
They're basically detailed ways to track your investments. One of them is called Trading View, and you kind of have to see it to really appreciate it. So I highly recommend logging on to any of these. Create an account if you need to. You're kind of like driving the Millennium Falcon when you enter into these platforms.
That's a great analogy.
It's really cool. It's really fun. I mean, it's the kind of thing, you're going to look at it the first day and be like, oh my gosh, what am I even looking at?
That's how I felt about Robinhood. And now I'm driving Robinhood. I'm driving the Millennium, which is really like a scooter.
To your point, Jen, that is next level for sure. Well, thank you for indulging me in chatting about research.
Yes. Well, I'd love to hear too from our listeners to see if anybody has any great tips for us that we haven't covered about how are you finding out what to invest in, how to invest in, all that sort of stuff. JJ, can you tell people how to get in touch with us?
Yes, absolutely. We will be sharing a post on our website that includes this list of fabulous resources. And so we would love for you to add your best resources as well, books, sites, favorite Reddit groups, whatever.
And our Facebook group.
And our Facebook group. So that's womentakestock.com. You can find us on Twitter at womentakestock. You can find us on Instagram, women.take.stock. And you can find us on Facebook. If you go and search for the Women Take Stock group,
join us. We've got really interesting conversations going on there, and we would love to chat with you.
Yay. All right, guys,
Great.
have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.